Hello everybody, thank you for watching the Unit 4 video, and this assignment covers international communication, specifically cross-cultural communication in writing. So let's start off by discussing the assignment itself so everyone is on the same page with the deliverables. You're going to submit a video, and essentially it's a tutorial screencast that is developed using PowerPoint as a visual tool, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So everybody's purpose is going to be educating a group of employees about how to communicate with other professionals when they're visiting another country for business purposes. And for this project, you can choose any country to do some research on and present in your PowerPoint, except for China. And the reason for that is simply because it's really too easy of an assignment if you choose China, because it's been so heavily studied and published that it's more interesting and important for you to look at other countries that it might be a little bit harder to find information about. What I want to show you next is a couple of example slides that address topics that you might include in your own presentation. And the overarching theme here, really, for what you're trying to convey to the group of employees is that they need to be prepared, right? So look before you leap. If you don't know what you're in for, you might make a bad move that could result in a painful situation, as we see in the little meme here. So again, these are just some samples of what you might use. If you chose the Netherlands, you might point out that people who live there, they don't really beat around the bush. That means they're very direct. They're going to tell you how they feel right up front without really any concern for how it might make you feel. A quote from someone who lives there says, "There's no hard feelings, but that's just how it works here, and that's a whole lot better than being superficial." So that's very different than what we find in the US, where people are very fake, oftentimes in a business setting, overly polite, and they kind of tap dance around maybe uncomfortable issues. So that would be something important for the employees to know, that if their counterparts in the Netherlands, if that's where they were going, if they were very direct and came across as rude, it likely wasn't intended to be that way. So another example is for Indonesia, and you could let the employees know that they should not use their left hand to eat or to shake hands with other people. And the reason for that is that in Indonesia, toilet activities are done with the left hand. So they just reserve that hand for one thing and they use their right hand for everything else. In Russia, one would not give an even number of flowers as a gift. And if you're thinking, how is this relevant to a business context? It's because in many countries, we'll use China as the example, gift giving is very commonplace and almost expected when businesses are maybe courting each other, exploring, a partnership. Gifts will very often be exchanged. So it's important to know cultural norms in the context of giving gifts. So in Russia, coming back to the slide, you would never want to give an even number of flowers as a gift. And that's because an even number of flowers are for funerals. So any other time that you would be giving flowers, maybe just, to the office, you would bring them with and give them to the secretary, make sure that they have an odd number total. Also, don't wish people a happy birthday prior to that day, because in Russia there is a superstition that you might die if you are wished happy birthday prior to your birthday. So that seems silly, but it is possible that someone on the other team could have a birthday coming up, after your team is leaving, and they could say, "Oh, I heard your birthday is next week. Hope you have a great birthday." And that would be considered bad luck. So it would just be a simple thing to avoid if the employees were educated about it. We'll take a look at another one, and this one is about Singapore. Don't sit at a table if you see a packet of tissue paper there. So it's much like in the US, if someone leaves their coat hung on the back of a chair or an umbrella across their chair, it's reserving the seat. And that's the same thing for a small pack of tissues. That's the commonly used prop to indicate that the table or the seat is taken. So let's just go over some of the details a little bit further for the case. it's a 6-week project, not for us as the assignment, but for where your employees are going. They're going to travel internationally. Of the 6 weeks, 2 of those weeks will actually be in the other country. The 2 weeks prior are prep time and kind of getting all the documents and everything that they need organized and together and to prepare an agenda for the trip. And then they have the 2-week trip, and then there's the 2-week follow-up where they see if they're actually able to close this deal. So I maybe should have led with that. The context, you can make up your own context, but I think it's easiest to just consider that you're exploring a partnership or relationship with this overseas company. You're sending a team over to meet in person and go over some of the finer details, and hopefully the deal gets closed, and within a couple of weeks after returning, the the deal is made and the papers are signed. So the 6 weeks is inclusive of 3 2-week sections, and they're traveling right in the middle. You can address how they should communicate in writing before they go and when they get back. The same is true of telephone calls, and in writing I mean by email or by letter, because it's possible that there could be some actual mailed, snail-mailed communications when it comes to official partnerships internationally. There could be certified mail and things like that. So just, those are things to think about Googling. And there's 3 things that you are required to touch on while educating your employees. Those are how to communicate in writing and how to communicate in person, orally, or in person on a telephone call, or even on like a FaceTime or Zoom meeting. And then, of course, body language, which is either for video calls or when they are in the other country. Other ideas that you can address include how to dress, appropriate alcohol consumption, how to spend their free time, things that they should avoid, topics of conversation that would be smart and others that would be less helpful. So there's really a wide range of social interaction topics that are relevant to your employees traveling for business purposes that you can cover. Don't cover things like what restaurants they should try, or anything that would be considered vacation or entertainment. Those are not really topics that you're going to address. Remember that in this assignment, you're really playing the role of a teacher. That's why I've used the word educate. So educate your employees. You're just doing your best to impart knowledge on them so that they can remember it. So you don't just want to spit out a bunch of facts. You want to give it a little bit of flavor, a little bit of interest, and you can do that both by giving examples and visually through the way that you design the PowerPoint. This is another sample slide that you can kind of use if you want. You can like duplicate this because I think it's a really strong way to present information in the opening or as a summative slide. So basically what this sample does is it takes the US, some certain US nuances about professional communication on the left, and then some professional communication nuances about China on the right. So it's comparing them. It's directly comparing the different social ways of being in the 2 countries side by side so that the employees can see what they need to be doing differently when they're in China. And this is another concept that's relevant to China. It's called guanxi. The main point that it's here is just to show you that a PowerPoint can have motion, and that makes it a lot more interesting and engaging. I'm going to show you how to add motion like that as well. Okay, last but not least, let's just go over the due date, which is March 24th. This is a 2-week unit, but it's interrupted by spring break, so it's actually 3 weeks. So we will work this week, take a break next week, and then finish up that following week. You're going to be submitting a PowerPoint or an MP4 file as a video, or you can upload it to YouTube. Any of those formats is fine. Make sure that your PowerPoint is pretty and it's engaging. So that means you use animation and color and have things happening on the screen while you're talking. I'm going to post a separate video of PowerPoint tips and tricks to make sure that you have something that's visually engaging. If you're already great with PowerPoint, feel free to skip it. If you feel like your skills in this area could use some improvement, then take a look. The last tip is try not to just wing your narration. Like, don't create the PowerPoint and then record and just turn that in. Give yourself at least 1 or 2 practice runs. You don't have to write out a full narration, but it helps to have those bullet points. And of course, you're not recording your face this time, so you can read. And it's fine to sound rehearsed and like you're recording a video. That could be completely perfect for this context. And that's all I have for you, so thanks for watching.